You know that feeling you get when you're watching an older parent or grandparent walk, and you see their feet aren't really lifting off the ground? It's more of a slide, a shuffle, and that little knot of worry just tightens in your stomach. It's a really common sight, but it's not a simple one. So what's actually going on here? Let's dig in.
It's so easy to just chalk it up to old age, right? Oh, that's just what happens when you get older. We see it, we kind of accept it, and we move on. But what if that common assumption is just plain wrong?
Okay, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. A shuffling walk is almost never just old age. It's a red flag. It's the body's way of sending up a flare, signaling that something else is going on underneath. And in a lot of cases, it's something we can actually do something about.
All right, before we go any further, let's just make sure we're all on the same page. When we talk about a shuffling gait, we're not just talking about walking slowly. It's this very specific pattern where the feet drag or slide. There's none of that normal lift and swing you see in a confident stride.
So if it's not just age, then what is it? Well, there are about 10 common underlying causes. To make sense of it all, we're going to investigate them in 4 different groups.
Let's start with the most direct causes, the physical mechanics of the body itself. We're talking about issues with the muscles, the bones, and the joints that are, absolutely essential for walking the right way.
And these 3 really tend to work together. Think about it. If your hips and legs are weaker, you just don't have the power to lift your foot. Then, if you've got arthritis pain in your joints, lifting your foot really hurts, so you avoid it. And finally, if the foot itself has lost flexibility, it's physically hard to clear the ground, which basically forces you into a shuffle. But it's not always about pure strength. Walking is this incredibly complex conversation between the brain and the body. And when there's static on that line, when that communication gets disrupted, our walk is one of the first things to show it.
You can see how these all connect. If your sense of balance is off, you're naturally going to keep your feet closer to the ground for stability. If you can't see depth very well, lifting your feet high feels risky, right? And you combine that with slower reaction times, well, a shuffle suddenly becomes a self-protective strategy.
Okay, next up, we've got factors that are less about what's happening inside the body and more about the environment and a person's mindset. And honestly, these are often the easiest things for us to check for and fix. The psychological part here is huge. I mean, if someone has fallen before, the fear of it happening again can be just paralyzing. They might keep their feet glued to the ground just in case. And then you've got the practical stuff we can control. Are they wearing loose, floppy slippers instead of good, supportive shoes? That can totally mess up a natural walk. And get this, even just the idea that a floor might be slippery can be enough to make someone start shuffling. And finally, we have to look inside the medicine cabinet, because sometimes the very things that are meant to help us can have some really unintended consequences for how we move. A lot of common medications, think sedatives or certain blood pressure drugs, can cause side effects like dizziness or muscle weakness. So if someone feels unsteady because of their meds, they're going to naturally switch to a more cautious, shuffling walk to feel safer. This is why a medication review with a doctor is absolutely crucial. All right, so we've talked about all the potential causes. But why is this so urgent? I mean, why can't we just let a shuffle be a shuffle? Because it isn't just a way of walking. It's a direct sign of increased danger. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. I mean, look at the difference. With a stable walk, the feet lift high, the stance is wide enough to give you a solid base. But with a shuffling walk, the foot clearance is low, the stance gets narrow, and because of that, overall stability just plummets. It's an inherently unstable way to get around. So let's be crystal clear here. This is not a minor issue. That change in how a person walks dramatically, significantly increases their risk of a fall. And a fall can have absolutely devastating consequences for an older adult. When you don't lift your feet, the world basically becomes a minefield of tripping hazards. Everyday things that you or I wouldn't even notice, the edge of a rug, a small doorway threshold, a tiny crack in the sidewalk, they suddenly become huge obstacles. The front of the shoe catches, and that leads to a stumble, or worse, a really serious fall. Understanding the problem is half the battle, right? The other half is knowing what to do about it. And the good news is, there are very clear, practical steps you can take to make things safer. So here's your 3-step action plan. First, just observe. Watch the walk and look for any of the causes we just talked about. Second, handle the easy fixes. Can you get rid of a throw rug or replace some worn-out shoes? Do it. But the most critical step, by far, is number 3, see a doctor. A real evaluation is the only way to get to the root cause and come up with a real plan.
And this really just sums it all up, doesn't it? This isn't about nagging or pointing out a problem. It's about understanding. Because once you understand the why behind the shuffle, you're empowered to take action, to help improve mobility, and most importantly, to prevent a life-changing fall.
So, I want to leave you with this question. After everything we've just covered, what's one simple thing you could check on today? A pair of old slippers? A loose rug in the hallway? Because taking that one tiny step could be the start of a much, much safer journey.